Are you kidding me? Like, I can't even go in a circle right now?
We call that atrophy. Your skills just died out on their own.
Hello and welcome. My name's J.E. and with me today is my good old friend, Alexander Gonzalez.
Hello.
And please remember that we are not game devs. How are you doing today, Alex?
I'm doing all right, Jay. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. My dog's not doing too well. She just had surgery, so
Oh no, what happened?
She had a few masses, and so we had to like remove them. They're sending them to the lab to make sure they're not cancerous.
Yeah.
But because of that, they're also like, hey, we should also spay her. So they spayed her and got rid of a few masses. But she's just...
Yeah, so she's not feeling too well. She just had her guts removed.
She's just lounging around and kind of looking
on
sad
drugs.
with inner cone and drugs and all that stuff. But, you know, it is what it is.
She'll feel better. Hopefully there's nothing about it. Usually older dogs get a couple lumps and they're benign.
Exactly.
But,
that's exactly how I'm trying to think about it. But those are not the dog emergencies that we are talking about today. Today, we are creating something new. Every week, we are not game devs. We'll create a new, exciting video game idea that we have always wanted to play, but not have any knowledge or know-how to create the wonderful experience that are video games. Today is my turn to present We Are Not Game Devs' 107th IP.
Here we go.
Let's talk about a game that I would like to envision is like a Yakuza copy. I kind of want it more in the style of either a GTA or like a Watch Dogs, where it's bigger than Yakuza, because Yakuza is just one city or two cities, depending on what game you're playing, you know? But, so more like GTA or Watch Dogs, where it's like a bigger city. Like you have much more to work around. I'm also drawing a little bit of influence from GTA 4, I think, where you play as Nico. Is that 4?
Nico Bellic. Yes, 4.
Okay, yeah. So I'm drawing a little bit of inspiration from that in the beginning, at least, where you start off as like a taxi driver. And that is the premise of this game. You are a taxi driver, or let's just say you are a driver, right? You start off as a taxi driver, but this takes place in the great city of Seoul, South Korea.
Okay.
The reason I want to place this in Seoul is because I don't think enough games utilize that city. I've been there multiple times, and it is a awesome city to go to and just visit and play around in. And I could imagine it will translate really well in video games. The last time I saw Seoul in a video game, and it's a game I haven't played, so I don't know how well they did it, was in Agents of Mayhem. But I want this to be kind of like Yakuza, where it is a almost exact, not exact copy, but it feels like you're in Asia when you play Yakuza. And I want that to have that same feeling for this game. I want it to feel like you are in Seoul, Korea.
So the couple of general things that I know about Seoul, South Korea, and that I'd want to include in this game, would be that there's an extensive nightclub culture.
Mm-hmm.
There's an extensive drinking culture for the businessmen at night that can go very late.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there is a demilitarized zone that would definitely have to have an impact on the story.
Mm-hmm.
What else? I know that technology is huge.
Mm-hmm.
So is Samsung. I think Seoul has maybe some of the best internet in the entire world.
Something like that.
And because Yakuza and the sentiments I'm feeling, there's always some goofy stuff about this game. So there's going to have to be goofy skincare.
Mm-hmm.
Because Koreans are lauded for their skincare routines and their skincare products.
Yeah.
As well as also their weird skincare products. And idols.
Yeah.
they also produce a lot of pop idols, which
Exactly.
I think would have to be in this game too. Like
Most
at
definitely.
least maybe some missions or something relating to it.
So let me talk about a little bit of a story idea that I had for this game. Have you seen the movie Parasite?
Yes.
Academy winning movie Parasite.
Yeah.
Uh,
And thoroughly enjoyed it.
I'm drawing a little bit of inspiration from that as well, where at first you do start off as a taxi driver, and taxi drivers are very common in Korea. It's how a lot of people get around, that in the subway. So you start off as a taxi driver, and then there's going to be a pretty deep single player story where you are just, yeah, driving people around. But eventually you'll start getting kind of like in Deadpool, the first movie. Have you seen Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool?
Yeah, I think I've seen the first one.
Where in the first movie he kind of like hijacks a taxi, and the taxi kind of becomes his chauffeur around the city as Deadpool needs to get around, you know.
Yeah.
Similar idea to that, where you start to realize you're getting the same customer, and he kind of gets you to go certain places. That was a loud bang from my apartment, sorry.
Oh, I didn't hear it at all. No, you're good.
But that made me lose my train of thought. Yeah, so you're driving this,
So the same customer over and over,
and you start to
then-
realize he's kind of into like shady stuff and like part of like the gangs out there and all that. Maybe part of like the prostitution ring that is crazy in Korea, and then also the drug
I didn't
trade.
know that. I didn't know that either.
Oh, drugs are highly, highly illegal.
What are the big drug? I've heard that. I don't know about the laws in Korea, but I know that the laws in a lot of East Asian countries against drugs are very harsh.
Yeah, very, very strict drug laws. Very similar to Japan's drug laws that you probably have heard stories from. Like a lot of
like
people
a
get
news
fired.
anchor doing a line of cocaine and has to step down.
Yeah, exactly like that. And so that it could go around that, like the story. So it's a little bit more of like the Korean gang influence stuff, and then eventually I think you're going to get roped in into becoming like a private driver. So that's where my Parasite influence comes from. But you become like a private driver for like a rich Korean, I don't know, politician or something. But on the side, he has like either something on the side that you are kind of involved with and kind of not, right?
No,
But
I like that. So I see that going into, and the way it naturally splits, where maybe you take the driver out to dinner or something, and it's a late night dinner, and it's maybe one of his friends' restaurants, right?
yeah.
And or it's a restaurateur that he's friends with, and then he's like, "Ah, fuck it. You know what? You want some food too? Come and get a dish really quick while or eat some of the appetizer while we're talking." And then you actually end up making friends with the restaurateur, and then all of a sudden you're a part of that life. And it can kind of go that way for maybe if you wanted to the nightclub life, because there's also a lot of sketchy missions that could happen there, as well as doing a restaurant, and possibly if you become friends with like a music producer or something.
Maybe
on
it
the
could be
way.
kind of like Yakuza and Watch Dogs, where there are characters that you meet, kind of like you said, a restaurant owner or like the owner of a nightclub, and you meet
Yeah.
them, and then they'll give you like side quests that have to deal
Exactly.
with their story. But I do want this main story to be this like kind of like this underworld driving around these shady people, and then eventually getting hired to do some bigger thing, and then maybe at the end you're the reason why they are turned in or whatever.
Is there like a gang like the Bloods or the Crips or the Latin Kings
They
or
have-
the Yakuza
They
or the
have
Triad?
more of a Yakuza triad feel to the gangsters in Korea. Closer to, I guess, triads, maybe less drug related.
So
than
not as
triad.
much cartel.
I think it's more like the Yakuza, where it's more territorial and like kind of like the mafia, you know, like rackets
Extortion.
and stuff. But I don't know that much about the underworld of Korea, if I'm going to be honest. I know a lot of shady stuff goes down. I just don't know too much about it. But they do exist. But that's just the overlaying story. You did mention food. I do want food to be a big part of this game. I want it to be more important than food is in Yakuza, where Yakuza, the food just heals you. In this game, I want food like it has to be. Maybe in this game, you have to eat once a day or something. I don't know how we're gonna implement this, but I feel like you have to go sit down and then like order food and then eat it, and like it's gonna be presented kind of like Final Fantasy 15 style, where it's just like a beautiful dish, and you could like go get street food, or you could go into a restaurant, get Korean barbecue, or you could just go to a regular Korean restaurant and eat food there. But I think the night portion of the game, like I think there's gonna be a day and night cycle, or maybe flips between day and night for story purposes. Maybe we'll
I
do
think
like Watch Dogs, where it's day and night cycle, but for certain stories, you'll wait around until it becomes night or day. You know?
why don't we incorporate the food and maybe borrow a little bit of mechanics and make it so that when you go out to eat, you have the option of inviting one of your friends. Doesn't mean that they're going to show up every time, but you can say like, "Oh, to the music producer," and invite them out, and then that could also get you to talking about a side quest mission or maybe unlocking more perks or
Yeah, I
making
like
the
that.
story move forward.
Kind of like how Persona does it, but a little bit
Yes.
more. The dates are more like,
They're casual, just real
Yeah.
quick eats, but it'll also kind of reinforce the food and make the player want to do it as well.
so maybe we could do it more like, what game did it? Maybe it's not that you have to go out and eat, but it does bring up you could only get certain side quests if you go on like a food date or go out to the nightclub with your friends, and that's how you get certain side quests. Or like you go out and eat, and that's how you get certain like perks from like maybe the restaurant owner will give you like a certain item if you treat them out to dinner enough times. You know what I mean? That item is
Yeah.
like super helpful, you know, that type of stuff. But I want these to have like full cutscenes where you are like hanging out with them. It's kind of like I know there's a game that did this recently, but like you would invite, let's say, the restaurant owner to the nightclub, and then there would be like a time lapse cutscene of them just hanging out and partying at the nightclub and them doing different things. You know what I mean? And maybe there could be
Yeah.
a choice
No,
in
no.
the middle where you could be like either go out to dance or just hang out and drink type of thing.
Yeah, no, I like all that. So that works moving forward. So is the main gameplay besides this kind of sim and story are we going to be beating each other up? Are there going to be weapons like the traditional brass knuckles, chains, bats,
So,
guns?
like Japan, Korea is very but not many people own guns. It's very rare to see a gun in Korea. The police don't even have like weapons. You know what I mean? Well,
Yeah.
you probably don't know what I mean, but you know.
No.
I
I mean, I can, I just understand it.
Yeah, so like weapons aren't seen that often. So yeah, it's going to be more like brass knuckles, bats, and things of that nature, right? Also know that in Korea, all males have to serve in the military for 2.5 years. So
I
they
do know that. There was
all
a UFC
have,
fighter that had to literally stop his career to go serve.
and that happens a lot where people stop their career for 2.5 years because they have to serve, or you're dumb and you try to break all your teeth like this one rapper did to get out of military service, and then he goes to jail for 2.5 years instead. Because it's a federal offense if you don't go to the military, and you try to avoid it on purpose like that. But
Yeesh.
that gives a reason to that your character knows how to fight. And I mean, everyone knows how to fight. You know what I mean? Like everyone there,
Yeah.
every Korean male pretty much that's from Korea and served in the military knows how to kill someone, you know? But that gives reason for your character to be a good fighter. And so I think it's going to be kind of like Yakuza, where you could just fight, and then maybe it's going to be more like GTA, where instead of in Yakuza, you could just pick up a random park bench and start hitting people with the bench. It's going to be like you have to equip and buy the weapons that you use. Otherwise, you use like not Taekwondo, but you use like Judo or Hapkido or something like that, like some kind of martial art. And that's the main fighting style. I don't want there to be too much combat, and I don't want any gunplay. It's literally just brawling. But the bulk of the game is just you driving. It's going to feel like GTA, where you take up story quests or side quests, or to make extra cash, you could just be a taxi driver and just go around and give people rides and shit. You know what I mean? If you need money.
Okay.
And then,
So besides the driving, are you actually going to be driving, or is it going to be a cutscene?
I think you're going to be driving.
Okay, so you'll be driving, you'll be fighting. You'll definitely be gambling, right? That's just gonna go with it, I think, with the nightlife. What else would you be doing here? Would there also be some type of mini games, like what I'm thinking, some arcade,
I think karaoke has to be there. And it
or
could be like
and
Yakuza, where it's just a rhythm game. You
and then
mentioned the idols, and so maybe you befriend a K-pop girl group or a male group, and then like maybe there's like also a dancing mini game or something there, and then maybe at
I
the
want it to be something where you basically befriend one idol who's having a hard time. So then you have to end up extorting and dropping out other idols so this one can make it to be part of the group. I want it to be something funny like
I
that.
do also want it at the end where you become like the partner and you have to be on stage with them, and then you kind of become an idol yourself.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe there's also like I don't know, food eating contest that is like a mash button mini game type of thing, or like drinking mini games where it's like to see who could last the longest type of stuff. I don't know how that would be done. Um, but yeah, I kind of want it to be like Yakuza, where you could at any time you're always driving your cab until the end game. You'll drive your cab and then you could just stop and then go off duty, and then that's when you could go play mini games, and you could do this day or night because Korea people need taxis at all times.
Okay.
And so you could just stop it at 4 a.m. and then go to the karaoke bar and then invite one of your friends to go hang out with you. And then after you're done with that, get back in your cab and maybe pick up a job or something. You know what I mean? Or do the
Now,
next story mission.
is the character ever going to have a house that they go stay at to change wardrobe and sleep? Or is it going to be something where they just pull off to the side of the road, get a blanket out of the trunk, lay in the back seat?
I think we could do two different things. First thing, I think we can have a central home, and maybe it's kind of like Michael's story from GTA 5, where he has like a family and stuff, and maybe that we could incorporate that into the story. So you
Okay.
could go back to your home, but there's also a popular thing to do for young kids and some people in Korea, especially college students, because there's 24-hour spas that Korean people frequently go to and sleep over. And a lot of college students use it because college dorms have a curfew. If you're not back by like 10 p.m., you're not allowed in your dorm. And so a lot of them would just go sleep at sauna.
So the spas allow you to sleep there,
Yeah,
or do they sleep inside you can't sleep inside a steam room or you'll
no,
die.
there's a common space that is literally just for sleeping. So
So a bunch of people just go sleep there?
Yeah, it's just a little.
Do they have like a supervisor watching the sleeping people so things don't get weird?
No, but it doesn't
So
get weird.
Is it separated by gender, or is
No.
it all the same?
It's all the same. The sleeping area is the same.
So it's a bunch of college-aged people.
Let me explain how a Korean sauna works. You walk in, right? You pay them I don't know, $30, right? And then
Yes.
they give you a uniform because you can't just wear your normal clothes. They give you a uniform. And then you split into two different sections, the guys and the girls. And then it's a basic gym locker room with a bunch of showers and stuff. And then there's just a bunch of spas, like a bunch of different temperature, water and stuff. And this is where the famous Korean spa happens, where you get fully naked. And that's why it's separated by sex. You are fully naked. Some people wear pants. They're usually white people or like visitors that don't really feel comfortable doing that. But you're fully naked, you take your bath, whatever, and take a shower. And then you go out to the common space, and that's where the saunas are. So there's multiple different rooms that you could go into.
So you put on your robe after you get clean, then go out into the sauna.
Exactly. And then you could go back to the bath whenever you want. So let's say you go to the steam room, or you go to there's like quartz rooms, there's salt rooms, and they're all at a certain temperature that's supposed to be best for that, whatever material they use. So like if you go into the salt room, it's at like a little bit low or higher temperature or something. If you go into the quartz room, it's a little bit lower because that rock is fucking hot. They even have like a extreme super hot room that's like a wooden igloo, and I hate that room. But after you sweat it all out, you could go back into the bath, wash it all off, and then you could go back to the common room. Also in the common room, there's usually an internet cafe, a small library that usually has a lot of manga and like books to read. There's also a restaurant. Some of them have bars, and some of them have karaoke.
And meanwhile, you can sleep somewhere also?
That's all in the common room. This
So
is the
you're
common room.
telling me after I take my bath, after I get my food, I can then get drunk with other people there, and then young people are going there, they're getting drunk, and then there's a common area full of mixed gender, and no one's doing anything. And they're all
No
just going
one's
to
doing
sleep just
anything.
fine.
Everyone's just sleeping. And there's families there too, like little kids and everything.
And they're open 24/7.
Yes. There's one here in LA.
What if like someone naps for more than 24 hours? What if someone just got
You have
off
to pay
like
per day.
so they'll wake you up, hey, we need $8. Yeah, here. I'm like, okay.
Well, I mean, the next day you probably have to
They'll
check
charge you as you get out.
Yeah. Probably that's what it is because they have your
what levels of service?
And some of them in Korea are like multi-floored because they know people go there to sleep. So there's so much sleep area. Like there's floors of sleep area. Anyway, besides the point, sometimes even story related, or if you just don't want to go back home to sleep, you could go to this spa to sleep, right? And your character doesn't need to sleep. It's not like maybe there could be a survival mode where like you have to eat and sleep and drink and stuff, but like your character will go to the sauna to sleep sometimes. That's where we're getting at.
And it'll give it a buff. It'll make it so maybe you health slowly regenerates.
Yeah, and there's like a restaurant in there, so you could, and then each one has different types of restaurants and stuff like that. Some of them have cafes, and all of them probably actually have cafes. That's a lie, because Koreans love their coffee and Koreans love their desserts.
Yeah, I did see a Korean coffee bath, I think, where then they also take fresh coffee and throw it on you on a YouTube video.
I've never
even may have
heard
been
of that,
Japanese. I don't know.
I mean, I believe it. But yeah, I guess that's where the sleeping situation is. Long story short, what else could we add to this? Like, I want street food to be super important.
I think we have a really robust game. We just have to make sure that the people are fun, to do, and we're gonna have to guide people in the sense that it's not GTA. Like, I don't know how do you put it? I think running over people with cars,
I think
shooting a whore is very American.
Yeah. The way that we could go around that is maybe we take a page from LA Noir's book where if you have someone in the cab with you, you have to drive somewhat okay.
Decent.
And I think a way that we could work around that to make it not boring is taxi drivers in Korea are a little crazy, and I've seen them make left turns on a red light on a 6-way intersection. If you tell your taxi driver I'm in a hurry, they're gonna get you there no matter what. You know what I mean? They'll do crazy shit. Taxi drivers go on sidewalks sometimes.
What the fuck?
And
so it's gonna be a little bit like Crazy Taxi.
Yeah, like it's pretty insane, the driving culture in Korea. It's really, I would be scared to drive there. I wouldn't drive there. Every time I go to Korea, the only way I would get in a car is if I'm driving out of Seoul, not ever in Seoul. Just because it's too insane. Like the way people drive is too crazy for me to handle. But that way, like, if you want to run that red light because you don't want to wait for it to go green, just do it. But if you crash, your passenger is going to get pissed and probably not pay you as much money, right?
Okay.
Oh, thing that we have to add, of course, PC bangs, which is like internet cafes. Those are huge in Korea. So maybe we could add like a small, very simple StarCraft. You know what I mean? Like a real-time strategy game that's just super simple.
Yeah. Those are some of my favorites. When they like reduce StarCraft into a couple turns, that'll get me to play for like 3 hours. I think we have a pretty detailed driving sim with a Crazy Taxi element. We have a beat 'em up. We have a story here. We have mini quests as well as mini games, as well as spas that you can explore. I think this game would be a good cultural introduction for a lot of people into what Seoul, Korea is all about.
The last thing I do want to add is the subway system has to be in there, and it has to be pretty good. Like how Persona 5 does the subways, I think they did a really good job on showing how Japanese subway systems work. Korean subways are almost the same as Japanese subways, where like I want you to be able to navigate the subways and to make somewhat sense.
Yeah. So the way I do it in Persona is I hit the rail map and then I see, and there's a list of where everything is at, as well as what people are available where.
Yeah.
And they allow me to teleport to people so often that eventually I probably had around 35 hours in, I figured it out.
Right.
However, if you tell me to go through the rail stations and do the transfers, I don't know.
Like I want that to be possible in this game though, to be able to do all the transfers and stuff. And then like we would have to, so Seoul is huge. It's like LA where it's just sprawling. There's so many different areas and each area feels different. We have to add, of course, it's going to be like GTA 5 where there's like obvious landmarks like Tongdaemun and Myeongdong have to be in there, but Sinchon also has to be there. But also like the areas that are like in the boonies, like the suburban areas of Seoul that look more like not a city, you know.
Gotcha.
And so there's like multiple different sections, and I do want all that included. And then maybe we could have like a side story where they go down south to like Busan or like an island like Jeju or something like that. But that just being said, I just do want there to be like the subway system, and then maybe one city that's far away that you have to drive to for like certain missions. Like maybe they're doing a drug trade in like the small suburb city, like an hour out of Seoul, and then you have to drive that, and then maybe like there's like a whole conversation, and that conversation as it finishes, you just see your car drive into the sunlight, and then it's just a cutscene for the rest of it. You know what I mean? Like that kind of shit.
Okay. And then we're going to touch base on everything. You can't not touch base on North Korea, South Korea relations a little bit.
Oh, you did mention the DMZ, which is pretty... it's a drive from Seoul. I want to say it's 2 hours, 2.5 hours away. But yeah, we could definitely go up there and maybe even cross the border a little bit and do some like maybe like North Korean smuggling or something like that.
Just something, either that or a little bit.
Like touch on it.
Is it true? I've heard rumors that North Koreans used to, in plain daylight as well as night, kidnap South Koreans and Japanese and bring them back so that they could teach their North Korean spies how to act in culture.
I think there's some truth to that. I know that North Korea sometimes steals like smart, educated people in South Korea so they could have that person to help them develop certain things.
I just think it would be a really weird or a cool mystique if there was like a slight conspiracy theorist person who was saying that there was plain day kidnappings happening, and that's why there's a quest to smuggle a friend back from North Korea to South Korea, or even just get close to the demilitarized zone.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
I definitely think we should play around with that for at least a quest, right? Like one of the main story quests, and maybe one side quest where you like smuggle drugs or something to North Korea, or like something like that.
Or even something dumb where maybe you drop off like a bunch of moon pies, I think. I think that's one story I heard where certain pies were dropped off in North Korea.
Yeah. Definitely have to add that. Anyway, I think we generally have an idea of how this game feels, how it plays. It's going to be a weird mix of Watch Dogs, Yakuza, GTA. It's going to be just a combination of all these open world exploration games that are all similar but all different. And you could tell that they all influence each other. It's just this, I want to say this is kind of like the Days Gone of it. It's a bad example, but the Days Gone of video games, where Days Gone is just every element from all the video games out there in one video game. This is every element and everything from all these open world exploration, city-based games all in one game, right? With a new city that not that many games are centralized in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's talk about music. Super easy. K-pop. Like
K-pop, club hits, right? Everything Korean.
Yeah, just K-pop. There's Korean
and there's
techno,
plenty of English
Korean
music
rap.
they're doing, I'm sure, too, right? Or there's like Korean music, and then there's Korean English music, and then I think there's even just English music.
Yeah, the Western music's huge over there. So it could just be, like, there's so many different genres of Korean style music that you could do multiple radio stations. One's just dedicated to K-pop, which is just the poppy stuff, and then there's like the rap stuff. Like you got Big Bang and all those people. I am out of the K-pop scene, so I have no idea what anyone listens to anymore. But then you could have like the Korean folk music, which is the stuff like that my dad would listen to and stuff like that. It could all be in there.
Yeah, I like it.
Pricing $60.
$60.
All right, Alex, time to start your timer, because it's time to name this game.
All right, and oh wow, I had a timer for 8 days. Wonder what that was about. All right, go. Seoul?
Like spelt like Soul?
Doesn't matter. You can do it either way, and it'll be interesting. Seoul or Soul.
I like Seoul spelt like Soul, or I also had this idea for Midnight Driver, but I feel like that's taken by something.
Yeah, that sounds like definitely a game.
All right, I like Seoul.
All right, Seoul in 25 seconds.
Sweet.
So I'll give a small description of Seoul, which is a game where you play as a taxi driver in a city. During your normal routines, you find a repeat customer who leads an interesting life and gives you a chance to expand your horizons. Through them, you find a world like you never thought you would in the city of Seoul.
All right, so I think we have a game here, Alex. What do you think? Would this be a game you would want to play, and is it fun?
Yeah, this would definitely be a game I'd want to play. I'd want to explore the area. I don't know much about Seoul except for what popular culture media has told me, which isn't a whole lot. And I don't know too much about Korean culture. There's a couple things I'd want to see, which is the DMZ. I'd want to see the Seoul Club Zone. And then I'd also want to see, interestingly enough, what bad areas of Seoul, Korea look like.
Yeah.
I saw from Parasite, I had no idea that there were basement dwellings.
The slums, yeah.
That kind of stuff didn't make me aware. So I'd like to see the high highs and the low lows. What about you, Jay?
I mean, I love Yakuza, and the main reason I love Yakuza so much is it really makes you feel like you're in Japan. From the 7-Elevens to the craziness that happens and all the weird anime stuff that's over in that game. It's so like, it makes you really feel like you're in there. And if I just lit up a cigarette, I could really think I'm over there because it's going to smell just like it. And I think that's why I want this game to exist so much, because I love going to Korea. Korea is one of my favorite places to go visit. And sometimes I'm like, man, I want to go to Korea, but I don't want to pay all that money to go there. And so I feel like this will be a good way for me to escape out to Korea and experience a little bit of being in Korea and how that feels. And I think it's a game that I would go back to frequently, just because I just love the feeling of being there, But yeah, I think it would be a really, really fun game.
I think so too.
I did want to, you just sparked something in me. Clothing is also a big deal, and shopping and stuff like that. So I think that's going to also be a pretty big deal there, like Dongdaemun, which is like a clothing central area where it's like literally almost skyscraper sized buildings just dedicated to selling pirated clothes, but a lot of clothes, and so I think a lot of it could be shopping and making your character look a certain way that you want to. And clothes are pretty cheap. Maybe you could even meet like a not a pirater, but a counterfeiter that makes like fake Louis and stuff like that, and then you have like a little story with that.
Is that a really big market in Korea?
Oh, it's a huge market. In Korea, it's so big. There's like 3 different levels, or there's probably more levels, where there's like the stuff that's super cheap, but you could tell it's fake. But then there's the stuff that it's pretty much the same bag. It's just not made by the brand. It's exactly the same. And the price, pretty much the same. At that point, why don't you just buy the real thing? I don't know. But some people just want to save like an extra $1,000. But it looks and feels and everything about it is exactly the same. It's just not actually made by the brand, you know?
Yeah.
All right. So now that we have a complete game, what game studio would you assign to make Seoul the best?
So I'm gonna do it to you like this. Let's just go with Naughty Dog, man. Let's do a third person good game. I want them to, at this point, this would be the most ambitious game yet. Where, because what I'm seeing here is that I want the story to be good. I want the character to character interaction to be good, and the acting to be good. I think it'd be really cool if they just opened a studio in Seoul, and then this was the first game that was coming out of it. How about you? I know I went with the lofty.
That'd be crazy. The biggest hurdle for Naughty Dog though is because that they're such an American company.
Yeah, it'd have to be
hard.
like a studio in there, almost like UB Montreal.
Let me also throw out a weird one. Let's go with Blizzard Activision, namely Blizzard.
Yeah.
Just because they do have more so than Naughty Dog, at least they have like a connection with the Asian culture. You know what I mean? More Chinese, obviously, but they'll have more of that connection to.
Well, I mean, when you're saying Chinese, you got to realize Blizzard invented StarCraft, and StarCraft is
the biggest thing.
It was on its own TV channel in Korea before there was any gaming content on mainstream media.
Yeah, there's like 3-4 dedicated StarCraft channels. At least this is like years ago too. Like this is like 10-15 years ago. They had multiple channels dedicated to StarCraft. So they know what's going on over there, at least in certain aspects of the culture. It's not too much of a long shot for them to start getting some Korean game developers onto their team to help build out the culture and the feel of the game. You know what I mean? And I think Blizzard could do some interesting stuff because they also don't really have an open world exploration type game like this. You know, the closest thing to this would be like Diablo, which is not even close to what we're trying to envision here.
No, most definitely. And then I guess what I would throw in, the last hat that I'm going to throw into the ring here would be Hangar 13 or 2K, the people who did behind Mafia 3. Hangar 13.
Yeah.
I think if they were to immerse themselves in Korean culture and kind of do what they did for the Mafia 3 game and bring it to this one, it would be fantastic.
I mean, you know how much I love Mafia 3, so I think they would do a great job if they could get just delve deep into the culture of Korea. But yeah, I think those are all great choices. But I did want to mention art style. If we do give this to Blizzard, it's going to look a little bit more like a cartoony kind of art style. But were you envisioning more like
saturation, more colorful?
Yeah. Were you thinking more like GTA or Yakuza, where it's more real life, or more like?
Yeah, that's what I always thought. I thought it would be realistic with not hyper realistic, but realistic, so it would still have some animation to it. You know,
right? And then maybe we could just make it pop more by adding more colors. There's a lot of. Like Japan, there's a lot of neon lights and all that stuff. So we can make it a little bit stylized,
very colorful, and then also the idol culture as well as the drinking culture, and then the spas. I imagine the spas being very clean looking. A lot of different color variations going on in the game.
Most definitely. And with that, our 107th IP has gone gold. We hope you look forward to this experience that will probably never release. You can write to @poundgames@gmail.com if you have anything to patch the game recreated today. Also, give us feedback. We are still learning how to make this show better, and your feedback really helps. We have a Patreon. If you'd like to back our ideas, please head over to patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. Patrons receive episodes 2 days early and an extra podcast at the beginning, which you caught the tail end of our conversation at the beginning of this episode. That's patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. If you liked our show, why not subscribe and give us all the stars on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store, Spotify, YouTube, and more. And if they ask for a review instead of reviewing our show, become your inner game critic and review Seoul, the video game we just created. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next Friday with another new IP. Again, my name is Jay Yee.
And I'm Alex Gonzalez.
Thank you. And please remember that we are not game devs.
I got soul. I was going to sing a song, but things get trademarked and claimed.
Oh, yeah. Now they do, huh? even if you sing
Even
it.
on Twitch.
Yeah, that's crazy.